Hi, welcome to Balisong Meet the Makers. I'm your host, Chao Wong, and today we have Janek Kaminski, better known as Bandage Knives, not Bondage Knives. Bandage is known for the maker of the Stitch, which is the first multi-platform balisong, being not only its own standalone bally, but compatible with both the Replicant and the Kraken. Thank you for coming on. How are you today?
Doing well. Thank you for having me.
So we've talked before plenty, and it's been a hot minute since I've done one of these. I'm really glad to get back into it, and I'm glad it's you of all people. My first question is, how did you get your name? I know that the X's replace the A's, so I'm just a little curious, like, how did you come up with Bandage and replacing the X's and stuff?
So actually, I had drawn a ballad song if I'd already had this idea in my head, but I was driving and I was like, I need a name. It was me and my girlfriend Lane. We were driving, we were going on a date, and I was like, I want something simple but somewhat related to knives or sharp things, or so I was like, well, band-aids, bandage, and then so I was like, all right, bandage. I like that. It's simple. And then so she of course agreed. She liked the name, and then she was like, you should just replace the A's with X's, and boom, that's kind of where the X's came from. It was just different, and it helps to a certain degree because now when you search bandage knives, you just put the X's and usually stuff pops up. So, but you have to remember that it's X's. But yeah,
it does make it easier to search. I will say the SEO is certainly in your favor. And honestly, the X's does make it more memorable too. Of course, we have to do the shout outs to Den and BMX for accidentally calling it Bondage Knives for the entire review video when he first covered your Stitch. I think he was the first person to review it.
Yeah. I was screaming at the TV the entire time. He even went on to say that he's like, I don't know, I like the ballad song, but I really don't like the name, the whole bondage thing. And I'm like, it's not bondage.
And what's funny is your logo is like two Band-Aids with a B over it.
Yeah, it's very clearly bandage.
Yeah, he's obviously owned up to it. This was years ago at this point. Yeah. So how did you get into making ballad songs? This is always a question I ask everyone, and everyone's story is always kind of different.
So I'm an electrician by trade, and one day I was at a machine shop and I had a Prisma on me, right? I was flipping it, and anytime I'm flipping a ballad song, usually it garners attention from someone. And in this case, it happened to be a machinist. And so we got to talking, and he was like, oh yeah, I can do this. And for this, this would be super easy to make, blah, 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 blah. And, kind of gave me this illusion of that this would be an extremely easy process, right? I don't think he knew exactly what went into making a ballad song, but so from there, it kind of gave me the hope and inspiration to design and make a ballad song. It made it feel tangible to me. So from that point on, I was like, well, let me draw something. And so I just grabbed a pen, pencil and paper, and started drawing away. And yeah, that's where the Stitch V1 came to be. Yeah, and then I started asking the community on who designs in CAD, because I wasn't proficient at the time, still not proficient, but luckily there's a lot of really great guys in the hobby. Ultimately, Block's Balisong started to help me, and then Static came and helped complete the Stitch. So yeah, that's where the first Balisong came from, and kind of got the ball rolling.
All right. Also, shout outs to Static Knives, a previous guest on the show. You said that you met this machinist, and your first Stitch, did the machinist make that first Stitch?
No, I really wanted to make it with him, and that was ultimately the plan, but there were some health complications, and he was a machinist at a shop. It wasn't his shop, so there was some red tape there. But yeah, no. So I use a shop that's in China that a lot of makers use in this hobby. I believe NRB and the gentleman who makes the Chioni, they found this shop, and that's kind of trickled down, and a lot of other makers started using this shop. Me and Static, and who else? There was I think Blocks used it. Buffalo, BA Bally's used them after the Sagaya. So there's a lot of makers that use this shop.
Yeah, I know that machining, especially in America, is really, really expensive.
Yeah.
So a lot of people go overseas with their machining for just because it helps reduce the cost of the actual components and therefore makes the Balisong somewhat more affordable. Because, like, let's be honest, if it was machined by MachineWise, who are of course excellent machinists, but that does have a markup. It does make things more expensive. So one of the things that's special about the Stitch is that it is not just its own standalone Balisong, which I love how the Kukri blade looks. Could you hold it up for the camera? Because I have the Stitch R2. I adore that blade. And I remember these handles. These handles that I have in my hand are different than the ones that you have. But how did you go about doing it both on the Kraken and on the Rep? Because they don't have the same specs.
Correct. So I was looking at Balisongs, and I don't think I was the first person to come up with this idea. I was just the first person to execute it in a production Balisong. But, being obsessed with Balisongs and constantly messing around with things and, disassembling reps and Krakens and ultimately looking at the positions of where the Zen pins landed, kind of was like, well, you could just put the two different pin placements on a handle and make it compatible with both. And sure enough, we tried it and it worked. So then we kind of just, as far as the Stitch goes, that's we've continued to use that, and it works. A lot of people love the Kraken Stitch and swear by it and won't flip anything but a Kraken Stitch as far as the Stitch goes. So it's been exciting to see it kind of grow on its own, and then a lot of people keep it stock and just with either the Kukri blade or the Tonto blade, which you have the same Tonto blade as me. There's the V2 blade, and then we had the Stitch R, which was a much wider blade.
Ah.
Yeah.
So one of the elements of the Stitch is, of course, if this is not completely recognizable, as Zippy's sort of inserts, and I know that these spacers also have modular weight systems, which is known by Zippy. So how did that collaboration come to?
So going back to the inner blade design between the Rep and the Kraken, the blade weights are so vastly different. And at the time, coming up with my own adjustable weight system seemed a bit daunting and hard. And I loved Zippy. He's one of the greatest people in the
GOAT.
Yeah, the GOAT. So automatically I reached out to him and asked if he would want to make Zippy spacers. And to be honest, that was a huge part of making the Stitch, because this is still the only Balisong that comes stock standard with Zippy technology. It's just, yeah. So because of him, we were able to go to a full weight Scorpion Tonto blade, which is the heaviest blade I think you can get onto the Stitch, and then all the way down to a Tonto Kraken, which is an extremely light blade. So without Zippy, I think that the design process of the Stitch would have been very different, and I don't know if it would have been as successful as it was from the get-go.
Yeah, I mean, when you are trying to solve a weight problem with the spacers, there's already a solution. And we've seen it on so many Balisongs because, again, Zippy is kind of one of the most ubiquitously agreed upon designers in the Balisong space to be like, he just does it, and he's really friendly, he's really detailed. Like, I love how his website has like all of the information that you could ever ask. So many freaking things. I want to know how much a knife weighs, and they don't even say on like their page, or Zippy will just have all of these details. So you reached out to him, and like, does he actually, I don't know if you want to go into this, does he get a cut of the profits, or is it just like you flat commission some amount of hardware?
The spacers from him at an agreed upon price, and that's kind of how our collaboration goes. And it's worked out because at this point altogether there's about 100 stitches, or not 100. There's probably close to 75 stitches in existence. Not all of them have been sold, but so yeah, as stitches come in, as people want different colors, I'll order from him, or I'll order large batches from him. And that's kind of how that one works. I think that's Zippy was a huge part of the Stitch. Yeah, no, that's again, he was part of some of the inspiration of keeping the Stitch going. He was always so positive and supportive, and he's an extremely innovative person. So having this problem to solve with him was, working with like the best partner ever. So I'm forever grateful for David.
I think also part of it was like the fact that it came with zippy spacers and such like that. It did honestly kind of help build some of the trust to be like, everybody knows Zippy because he's done like modifications for like every popular battle song that was possible. And so the fact that this was like a collaboration with someone that was already quite established and you were a brand new maker on the scene, it did actually help kind of put trust in, and it made me more likely to be like, I kind of want to give this a look at. And I ended up, of course, loving it. And now I have my quote unquote second Stitch, if I can ever get my first one back. So I think I have a video or multiple videos where I actually try. Of course, I've tried the Stitch as the original combination. I now have a video, of course, of this version. I have a video, I definitely have a video where I try it with a Kraken. And I think I also have a video where I try it with a rep blade. I'm not sure about that one though. I
think I remember that. You might have done, yeah.
Yeah, and like it does work, and it is interesting because like you can, it probably won't be easy to see on the camera, but you can see like the two pin, like a second pinhole. Oh, sure, yeah.
So I found a Stitch R blade as well for reference. This is the only blade that was missing out of the bunch.
Can you compare it to the other one, the 10? Oh yeah.
So the V2 has a swedge, and then the R is just no swedge, but it's wider. You can see the Zen cups in particular down at the base of the knife.
Oh yeah.
Which this whole thing is one of the, if you don't mind, a side tangent.
Absolutely.
One thing I've discovered with designing Balisongs is the spine and where it lines up with the pivot and how much that helps with chaplains.
Yes.
So because with this, and the whole reason we switched because I like the design of this blade, but the whole reason we switched to this blade was to help with chaplains.
It's really nice, I will say.
Thank you. Yeah, so that's, even the V1 Stitch still has the Zen cups, and this is not as bad with chaplains, but still not as great as the current Kukri when it comes to chaplains.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you have an updated Kukri as well.
Yes. So that is right here.
Can you hold it up compared to the other? Oh, I see that the tip hasn't been.
Yeah. So you can see the choil has been raised, and there's kind of a safe spot right here. Den, that was one of his complaints, that it had a hateful choil was, I believe, the words he used.
It's a gnarly choil, but not something I don't mind. That's a really raised choil though.
Yeah. So the opus, it's a little bit more subtle in the opus, but that's what kind of, because you can almost do a bite handle chaplain on a opus, right?
The machine-wise opus?
Yes, machine-wise opus. So that always kind of was like, well, I love flipping, and I know a lot of people are like, oh, live blade, that makes you a man.
I'm so anti-gatekeeping. It's like, also, a lot of countries don't even let you flip live blades. To gatekeep live versus trainers is so stupid, especially now that trainers are fantastic.
I have all the respect in the world for people that flip live blades and don't get cut. That's awesome. I'm not the greatest flipper. So when I get cut and then I want to continue to flip, it just kind of takes away from the fun for me.
Yeah.
So a lot of the stitches that I sell are unsharpened, though I'm more than happy to sharpen it or sell a sharpened stitch. I'm not against it by any means, but yeah.
Yeah. Also, just for comparison, here are, let me actually swap these two. Here is my Stitch V2 and a Kraken V3, and this is a custom rep, but with a stock blade. So you can see that they're all like relatively similar lengths and heights. So it was not impossible to have a multi-platform, but just it is still pretty, I think, revolutionary, the fact that you can do it. Oh yeah, and if you see that, yeah. And I love that V2. That's just so nicely machined.
Yeah. So you can see where the different positions are. You can go from side to side. So when you go to the Kraken position, which would be this upper point right here, the handles are inverted.
Oh wait, the handles are inverted? I totally forgot about that.
So instead of it being like this, where the trapezoids, if you will, are facing out this way, they'd be facing inwards.
Wow, I didn't even realize that the handles, your bite handle becomes your safe handle. Is that what you're saying? That's
well, yeah, kind of ish, but I mean, yeah. And then that way, so you could see just based on the way that the cutouts are placed, whether it's a stitch Kraken or if it's a rep Kraken or just a regular stitch. I think I've misused the word Kraken a couple times there. I was getting my words jumbled up, but yeah, based on this, you can see which type of blade is in there.
That is such an interesting. I didn't even realize that, and that seems like such a fascinating solution that with the Zen pin placements and how when it's for the Kraken it ends up being like the reverse.
Yeah,
that's fascinating. Wow, how'd you come up with that solution?
So we were just thinking about it. It was originally on the V1. Technically, there's 4 positions. It's really hard. It's going to be hard to see with this. I don't know if we can get it. Oh, it is disgusting in there. But so there's 4 holes. So let me use this. So before it used to be a hole here and then a hole on the bottom and then a hole here and then a hole on top.
Right, I do remember that.
Yeah. So, but the problem was that the holes were colliding, so you weren't getting a full contact area with the pins.
Yeah.
So we never had any issues with anyone blowing out a Zen cup or, any of the blind cutouts. But moving forward, we found it's not necessary to do 4 holes. So we moved to the 2, and now you have 2 solid blind cutouts, and it's a great place for the pins to sit, and should improve the longevity of your stitch.
Honestly, that's a really brilliant solution, because I have a stitch, but it is not in my possession, as some of my listeners may know. But it has been a while, so I forgot about the 4 cups, and then reducing it to 2 and then just flipping it. That's such an elegant solution. I think that's really cool.
Thank you. I mean, I had some help from Armin Buffalo, Dingus. He's we live in the same state, so he's helped me out quite a bit he's helped me out 100% with the CAD on moving from halfway into the R and then into the V2 and then the new kukri. So he designed the current Tonto that we have based on my drawings. He created this, and then the new kukri, the V2 kukri. So I have one more Balisong if you want to talk about that.
Oh, wait, like a new Balisong?
So it's not new. Ethan did do a review on it. It's the gauze. So it's an aluminum Balisong.
Whoa, okay. I've been a little disconnected from the Balisong community, as I've mentioned, but I had no idea that you made an aluminum Balisong.
Yes, unfortunately I've had so many issues with it and not enough time to look into it, so it's kind of been sitting on the back burner. But so this took some inspiration from
Frankenforge by any chance?
No, I took this. So I flipped the A51. What it was his most recent
Apollo.
The Apollo, yeah, and the curved handles, and I just absolutely fell in love with that. Because no matter where you grab the handle, you have somewhere to kind of torque the handle in whatever direction you want. So I really liked that curved face. So I went with my own version. The shapes of the handles and everything are very different, and the design philosophy, obviously. But yeah, so this is that, and I wanted to go for something simple, clean aesthetic, and so with that one, we went with the scimitar blade.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I don't know. So right now, the idea is I want to make a Thai version of this Balisong. Because I love it. I think it's one of the best flipping Balisongs I have. It's a shorter handle Balisong, so I found it to be a little bit more consistent, simple. Because the stitch has got a lot going on. you can do Kraken blade, rep blade. You have different size spacers. I wanted something that was just simple. So that's kind of where the philosophy and the design came for the gauze. But unfortunately, with life and aluminum being kind of a finicky material, it hasn't really made its way to life yet.
That's well, I mean, sure. Everything takes plenty of time, and of course, as you were saying, that you have a day job as an electrician.
Correct. Yes.
So obviously, this being like a side hustle, I suppose. Sometimes things take time. Like I have multiple jobs. Like I do this for fun, but I'm a video game composer. But there's also like I do other jobs. Like I'm also a professor now, and
awesome.
Yeah, I do love my jobs. But time. There's a lot of time that goes into iterating, and of course, with the fact that the machining is overseas and it can just have a lot of time in between. I absolutely would love to try a gauze at some point, especially like I mean, let's be honest, I think most people prefer titanium over aluminum. Obviously, aluminum is far less expensive. It was funny because I half flipped an Apollo. It is really good. Shout out to my man A51 who's local to me.
Awesome.
But it also, the handles did remind me of the Frankenforge Galvanus, which also has the sort of inward curves.
Yeah. So it was similar to that. I think that the curvature is a little bit wider than on the Galvanus. But yeah, that was a Frankenforge made a lot of really cool ballads, still makes a lot of cool ballad songs. But yeah, so I had more time with the Apollo, and I think that's why I used that as my reference. But yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at as far as ballad songs right now, and where I want to move forward. Eventually, I would like to make a third version of the Stitch.
Really?
Yeah.
I know, like, I would say that these handles, like, I like the V1 handles as well, but they feel a little bulkier. These feel a little like slimmer. What is it that you want to change?
So for a V3, I kind of, as far as my flipping preferences, designing a ballad song for everybody is impossible.
Of course, yes.
So with the Stitch, it's a longer handle ballad song, and it's fun. But as I've been progressively flipping more and more and improving, my preference has gone to shorter handles, and that's kind of where the gauze came in. And after I got the gauze and started flipping it, I really enjoyed it. So I kind of like to do a shorter handle Stitch for the V3. I think that would be a fun idea. I think that would make it a little bit more consistent, because right now it's about machine-wise length handles with rep length blade. So it definitely, I wouldn't have to change the length of the blade, but go with a shorter handle. And then I want to keep the handles round still, but I would like to keep them square, because right now it's about a 1/2 inch by 0.5. So it's a 1/2 inch wide, or 0.52 inches wide, and a 1/2 inch tall. So it's kind of got a rectangular shape to the handles, despite them being round. So I think I'd like to move to a squarer setup, maybe 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch.
Oh, so even thinner handles?
Yeah, thinner, or maybe I'll go to 0.52 to 0.52. But that's the beauty of the prototyping process.
That's really interesting. And I do see that the rep handle is maybe like 1/2 centimeter shorter. It's hard to tell, but
yeah, it's funny, the range, because you have about like 1/2 inch of variance with Balisong handles, with machine wise being your average longest length handle.
Yeah, they're pretty long handles.
Right. And then I think the Telesto is the only Balisong that has longer handles.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. And then the rep is about your shortest. I think the 41, 42 might be shorter. And then, of course, you have the Jimpy, who has they make smaller Balisongs. The micro, I forget the name of it.
Right. I've always wanted to try one of those.
Yeah, the mini Sentinel.
Yeah. Oh, I really want to try one of those.
People seem to love them. So, yeah, I would love to get my hands on one of those as well.
It would be... I have not been much in the game as I used to be, but like the mini Sentinel looked really cool to flip. And I've flipped, like, I have a plastic Balisong called the Quad by Fidget Fly, which is like really small. It's only like this long for the handles. Yeah. And it's plastic. It's designed to look like a keychain toy that you can kind of flip. But it's like, of course, because it's so small, it's It's quite difficult to flip. It's very much its own novelty sort of thing. Obviously, I respect. It's made by at the time he was in high school. I don't know if he still is, but somewhere in between the two, is I feel like a still relatively unexplored area. I don't know if you're gonna go that short, but
No, I still want to keep everything like a consistent flippings. I think to flip a Sentinel or something like that, you kind of have to learn how to flip it.
a mini Sentinel, right?
Mini Sentinel, yeah. You would have to. I think you have to kind of learn how to flip something that small. I don't think it's just picking it up and it. I could be wrong. I've never flipped one, but yeah.
So your plans are right now, at least down the road, a titanium gauze. I don't know if the aluminum gauze ever hit like a production point.
No, I had talked about it a lot. It didn't. I have 20 of them. 10 are useless, and I think I have like 4 more sets. So I've been kind of letting them go. Not really. I sold one to Cream Soda, and
I love that guy.
I know he's great, and it was almost like a 2-month process for me to get a put together in a flippable manner to sell to him. So I may list them at one point whenever I get the time to do them, but they're all raw aluminum handles because the anodized versions were all just the tolerances were so off that I couldn't use them.
I was about to ask if you didn't mind me asking why they were unusable, but it's like the tolerance, because it is just a channel battle song, right?
Correct. Which with the Thai gauze, I'd like to go back to sandwich. I feel like there's a lot more you can fix, a lot more forgiveness with a sandwich battle song. With the channel, you just have one piece. If it's not right, it's not right. Whereas with the sandwich battle song, people do wide kits on reps all the time. You can change the spacers, shim out the wash, or you can put different washers, thicker washers, shim out the spacers, and completely change your battle song if it's sandwich battle songs.
It's funny because I never thought about this as a flipper. The channel battle song has fewer parts that you need to worry about and fewer things that can go wrong. But as a maker, it does mean that the channel battle song, that if it goes wrong, it's trash. Like there's nothing you can do to save that. And it's interesting that like a sandwich battle song is more forgiving for a maker, whereas obviously like I have a Cygnus, like an older Cygnus at least. I know that they made a newer version that apparently is like fewer screws, because there's 4 sets of screws on each handle for the Cygnus, and there's like the spacer, the handle, the scale. So there's always like different things that like could go wrong, and it's like if the tolerance is off, like you have to screw in a very specific order. So it's always kind of like sandwich battle songs have like more variances, but that does make sense, that especially after this experience where like your anodized ones, I don't know if the anodization process warped it or they just like their machining was off.
I know that it can remove material when anodizing aluminum, whereas with titanium, it's a more forgiving process. You do have to etch the handles before anodizing titanium, but the amount of material removed is not noticeable, so long as you're anodizing your handles correctly and you're not letting it sit in the etch bath. Yeah, so that was part of the process. At one point, I'd like to see if maybe there's another maker that wants to work with me making an aluminum and selling the gauze to a more established aluminum maker. But yeah, that's something I've been reaching out to some people, but no bites yet.
Sure. I know the market is just kind of like, a lot of people have been saying that the Balisong community has been in a downfall for years at this point.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just that we can go to just life in general. I think it's been hard for everybody. So it's the cost of living has been going up, and then the cost of pay has kind of been
inflation, yay,
right? And it's wild inflation. So yeah, I feel like all hobbies have kind of been taking a bit of a hit.
Especially battle songs, because they're so expensive compared to most other hobbies, especially just like at a buy-in price point. I remember the first battle song that I looked at was the Mako, and that was like $100 or something like that.
Yeah, and that was like the cheapest decent Balisong you could buy.
And then they made the Vulp, which was like $65, and like Nibali's has done. Shout out to Nibali's has made a lot of really really solid aluminum Balisongs. They're affordable and not like they're like because there are a lot of like gas station knives like that are just so cheap clones. They're really junky, but Nibali's cares, and I can tell that they care, and I think that they actually have like really solid products. And of course, they're not necessarily the most high end, but I think for like a buy-in price point, it's like a really good place to start. But especially because of just how a lot of like nicer Balisongs, and it's like there are a lot of individual makers such as you. Like I've interviewed I think everyone I've interviewed has basically just been an individual person. Some of them have done the machining themselves, and some of them outsource it. But the margins are just so razor thin, and when things go wrong, it's such a huge loss.
Yeah. I would love to go full time doing this as my only job, and then really just dive into Balisongs and innovating and coming up with new stuff. But it's scary. Sometimes I get a lot of attention towards the Stitch, and a lot of people reaching out to where I can't keep up, and then sometimes it's difficult to find anyone that's interested in buying a Balisong. It's kind of just some days it's good, some days it's bad. And then like right now with the Blade Show going on, everyone's saving their money to buy a new Balisong at Blade Show, which unfortunately I won't be able to make this year. I've been wanting to go for the past 3 years, and just work, life, it becomes really really complicated. I will make it out at some point, but it just seems that life comes and hits pretty hard, usually right around Blade Show time. So yeah, it's hard.
So I've never been to Blade Show either. Unfortunately, you and I were in the Northeast, and the Blade shows, it's like Atlanta, Georgia, Texas, and I want to say like Salt Lake City.
Yeah. The Blade Show West. Yeah.
So,
which it'd be nice if we had one in New York. That's a 3-hour drive. It's not too bad.
I don't know if I would have. I don't know if New York City would be willing to do a knife show. Yeah,
they're pretty anti. I think that's part of the reason where Blade shows exist. I didn't even think about that. Maybe New Hampshire would be great for you. They're pretty open to all of that stuff.
And that's driving distance, and I don't have to worry about TSA. That's the other thing. Like, I don't want to fly with my knives.
Yeah, they should make
all this.
They should make a Blade Show Northeast. I think that would. There's a good amount of flippers in your guys' area.
Yeah, and I founded the Boston Flippers, and we have like a couple of people like Jeff Duma. I learned is like in New Hampshire. So like there is stuff. If you have a Blade Show Northeast, and anyone listening in the comments, but that it is kind of prohibitively far for a lot of us up here. And again, if it was in New Hampshire, I would actually go because I can drive there. But yeah, as Blade Show, obviously, like flying is expensive.
Yeah.
People, a lot of people are saving up for some Grail, or there's a lot of new things to try out. I don't know. It's interesting because I feel like, especially with Balisongs, it's hard to like come out with a new one every year. That sounds impossible.
Yeah, especially when, like, for me, from the point of having a finished, completed design to sending the design out, it's about 3 months to get the design made, machined, and then shipped back to the United States. And then once I have it, then I have to finish all the parts, make sure that all the holes are reamed out, and there's a finish on the Balisong. So there's a lot that goes into just that. So yeah, it's not. And I can't really speak on behalf of, someone like Frankenforge or Machine Wise, or there's some other there's another guy, he makes the rehandles for the Kraken. But he machines all his stuff himself.
I think those Kraken rehandles.
Freedom, let's see, give me one.
Yeah, no worries.
I'm blanking out on his name, but he's another small maker that makes and machines things himself. So I can't speak to someone like them and how long it takes, but I know that there's more prototype going on because they're dealing with the other aspect of like cam and machining and tooling and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a whole nother added process. But yeah, I would love to be able to come out with a new Balisong every year. That'd be awesome.
Let alone, not only is it unrealistic, just the timeline, but of course it's just expensive to like prototype and assemble. So like it's just easier to make the same Balisong, or at least do small tweaks to the same Balisong. Like obviously not a dig. Like I love this Stitch, and so like when you made a new version of Stitch, I bought this off my friend Static Rick, and I tried it. And I'm like, this feels amazing. Like I remember really liking it. And there are several Balisongs like, listen, man, if you ever sell this, I want first dibs. And this was one of them. And he was like, hey, I'm actually like thinking about partying with this. And so,
shout out Static Rick, by the way. He's also a union electrician.
my man, yeah, let's go unionize electrician. Yeah, hell yeah. But yeah, it's like I think this is a really great Balisong, and it's obviously a lot easier to iterate upon the same thing than to come up with a new thing. A51 is, when he does make new Balisongs, he's very small batch. Like he's like, he's like, I get tired of them. And I'm like, all right, dude. But he's very much like, I'm gonna do like a run, and then I'm gonna move on and not go back. And it's like, wow, that's hard. So usually also, if you were to make a new Balisong, it's also somewhat sunsetting an old Balisong, depending on who it is. Not everyone is able to do what Machine Wise and Squid Industry does, where they have multiple Balisongs that they can just keep up with these orders and pump out as needed.
Considering a CNC machine is anywhere in the I think looking at used ones, the cheapest thing I saw was like $30,000, and I don't know how well that would work. And then I have to learn stuff, and then I have to have 3-phase electrical. Like you can't just throw that in the basement of your house.
Yeah.
There are things. I know that A51 is now machining his own knives, which shout out to him. That is like the dream.
Yeah, it took a long time to get to there.
Yeah,
he was machining through JK for a long time too.
Yeah. I don't know if JK is still machining other people's knives. I think he took a step back from that and is working on his own designs.
That's news to me.
Yeah. So because at one point I reached out, just was with the idea of maybe making a higher end Balisong, which would have been fun. But I don't know if that's now that A51 is making Balisong, maybe that's something that I could work out with him in the future. I think would be, but that's also a scary venture too.
For sure. Yeah.
Because say the minimum order is 50 Balisongs, at $1,000, that's it's a lot of money.
Yeah, and like because he's small batch, like he only does lotteries.
Right.
It's like it's really tricky, There's not really like a solution that works for everyone, especially in an industry this small and this expensive. I guess, is there any other little known difficulty about the process of making Balisongs that you feel like people don't necessarily know about?
The tuning is unlike getting a finished Balisong with a bad tune, and you have to sand the bushings down to make sure that you're getting some play out of the handles, whether you're fixing tap tuning. Because I've had it to where I've had a good tune on it, but then the pivot hole was too small, right? And it took me the weeks, and I was freaking out, pulling my hair out. Why it wasn't working? The hole wasn't big enough. It was just big enough for a bushing to get in, but too tight for it to swing properly. Little things like that. So right now I'm reliving that nightmare with aluminum. But yet tuning and tolerances would be the hardest thing, especially when you're dealing with like thousands and 10,000s of an inch, right? It's really hard to diagnose a problem. They feel virtually invisible. That's one big thing that I think that is one of the more difficult things to deal with as a maker.
Yeah, and especially where folding knife will be actioned dozens of times, and a Balisong will be actioned hundreds of times. Like like let's say a folder here. I have a mini. I have like a mini Elementum. You do this. That's one actioning, and then like closing it is another. But this is already like way more than a folder does, right? So the tolerances are not only are they more demanding, it goes through more wear, and it's much more noticeable. But like as you were saying, like what, tenths, a thousandths, or hundredths? I don't even know.
Yeah, 10,000ths of an inch.
10,000ths.
Yeah. It gets down there, and those little thousands will make a difference. So just because I don't machine my own Balisong, I still have a ton of equipment, compressors, blasting cabinets, tumblers, drill press, that I go through. So it's not as so for anyone who wants to make their own Balisongs, it's 100% doable. And whoever wants, I don't want this to discourage anyone who's looking to become a maker. Because I started off with just a wire wheel. That was it. That's all I had. And because that was the cheapest way I could put on a good finish, which was orange peeling.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so all of the original stitches were orange peeled. Because $100 for a grinder, and then, $10-20 for a wire wheel, and boom, you're good to go. So and then from there I upgraded to a blasting cabinet, tumblers, stuff like that, and slowly, so for a couple $1,000s you can get a decent setup, and then learning how to anodize, that's a huge way to make a nice clean finish on your Balisong.
Anodized titanium, not aluminum.
Yeah, no. That's a whole nother ball game. I don't know if I'd ever want to tackle. I saw Julian from JK learning that process, and his shirts were getting eaten up by chemicals, and it looks like a nasty process. So, but that's
why no individual maker really does aluminum anodization. It's a different beast, way more dangerous too.
Yeah.
I guess my final question is there anything you would like to tell our listeners as a final imparting thing?
Keep enjoying flipping. Don't take things so seriously. This is an awesome community with awesome people. And ultimately, we're playing with a fidget toy, and it's insane what we've been able to do and watch this fidget toy progress through the years, and the community based around it. We have competitions now. We have the whole, Blade Show is not just about Balisongs, but the meetups. We have people from all different walks of life commingling and coming together. So I think there's a lot of really good stuff about this hobby, and I'm extremely grateful to be a part of it. It's wild to be even in an interview, talking about what I've done and where I've come from. So it's really fun to revisit those memories. And I guess the last thing, kind of what I touched on already, is if you want to make a Balisong, go for it, and feel free to reach out to me. I'm just another person. So if you have any questions or need any help with starting making your own Balisong, it's not easy, but it's not as hard as you might think. And I'm here if you have any questions, because that's how I got to where I'm at, was just the kindness of other makers and people in the hobby. So yeah, I'd love to help, and I love this community.
Well, thank you so much, Bxndxge. I will include his contact and his handles in the description. My friend, it's been so good to meet you online, face to face, I suppose. But
right.
Thank you so much for coming on, and for our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in again. I will hopefully do another episode, so I'll see you next time.
Bye.